on this. Oh. I love the way the pictures move when you have a background behind you. Always looks interesting. Yeah. So where are those wind turbines that are behind you? Where's that photograph from?
So those are in off of Japan, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, we'll wait and see what.
How was your trip?
It was lovely. It was lovely. I got to see my oldest and my two youngest grandchildren.
Oh, nice.
That was good, and go hiking in the mountains, and had a midwife colleague drive up and we went hiking together. So that was nice.
And you were
Whereabouts was that? No.
I was in Salt Lake, well, outside, just outside Salt Lake City, and then in Evergreen, Colorado. So just up in the foothills.
Oh, nice.
So are you from that area originally, or?
No, my daughter-in-law is. So, yeah. And very interesting to talk about the oil industry, because they both work for oil, or the energy sector, as it's now more politely called. So my son started working for BP not that long ago. And he said they're really working to have a more diversified energy profile instead of just petroleum products. So, yeah, always interesting. Oh. All right.
We should get started.
Yep, it's 5:02, and so the things that we're gonna talk about, go for it, Allison.
So, okay, there is no agenda for this meeting tonight, other than, I guess, just, everyone saying who's here, and then also just going through the presentation that Nell put together for the select board. And then the last thing I think we should probably revisit is assign tasks to anything that's not complete yet, like the survey, if we want to do that, or just have a vote or conversation about what needs to be finished when we hand stuff off to the select board.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that will be an important conversation, and I think remind me when we get there. Because my expectation for the select boards is that they will appoint some people from this group to continue this work. That's the way most of the time it works. So it's, if they convene a joint group, they will look for people to participate in it, and then they will authorize it through appointing, and it would be an ad hoc group. Okay, that's my expectation. I could be completely wrong, but that's how I've seen it work in the past.
Another question I had, oh yeah, we were talking about this before everyone joined in. Just putting together a packet. We were talking about putting together a packet for before the meetings,
right?
So that select board can have a chance to look through it. Just the presentation at least, and then
the matrix.
Yeah, and the matrix, we can do that. Yep. And then examples of like the survey and maybe the postcard, so that that's all put together for them,
Right.
and they have at least a day or two to review it.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
All right.
Hello.
We in the group meeting?
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
So let's start around the room with
Introductions?
yes, that would be the word.
I'll start. Allison Soroy, I'm an East Boothbay resident.
I'm Philip Conkling. I'm a consultant stakeholder outreach for New England Aquadentists.
Tom Miner with Bay Harbor.
Allison Evans, Boothbay Harbor.
Nell Tharp, East Boothbay. And on Zoom is Rob.
Yes, hi, Rob Trotta. I'm the project director for New England Aquadentists.
Great. All right. so I'll go ahead and share. I'm on the wrong slide, but we'll fix it. I'll start at the top. Okay, so our goal for this is a drafty. This was just a first attempt to have something, so that people could have something to respond to and say what they want to do differently. So, there's a total of 7 slides. We have supposedly 10 to 15 minutes. I usually figure 2 minutes a slide. So, hello, welcome.
Everybody doing?
Good. We just did introductions. If you would like to just say who you are and where you're from, that would be grand.
Okay, Lisa and Roger Matthews from Boothbay Harbor
Wonderful. Thank you.
and East Boothbay, actually.
All right.
It's a good place.
Good.
And more people might trickle in, but we'll just revisit the agenda for tonight and to give introductions. Talk about what we want to put together in a packet for the select board next week and the following. Go over the presentation that Nell will be presenting in front of, hopefully.
Yeah.
Doesn't fall sick, in front of the select boards. And then at the end, just talk about any updates that we need to still finish on some of the elements of the packet we're gonna give to the select.
All right. So go for it. I'm just going to be a scribe here.
Oh, nice picture. Good start.
So this is the Damerspotter River right by Farnham's Point. That's Farnham's Point right here. So that's where the cable will come into the river and then over here to go to Bigelow. So I figured like that seemed like it was an appropriate picture. All right. And if there's anything anybody wants to have changed, just speak up. That's what we're here for.
Do you want to just read through it like you?
Everybody can read through it. I'm not up for that.
Okay, all right.
Sorry. I've got tick bite fever.
Oh,
Yeah.
So I'm gonna just be low key today if I can.
All right, so why don't I do that? I'll read through it and then people can just, who are we and how do we get, and how did we get here? So we are a group of concerned citizens from Boothbay, Boothbay Harbor. Our initial concern was the path of the cable as it hit land. Right?
Yep.
And then the group soon moved to discussions with NIEV about a community benefits agreement to offset local impacts of the project. And then NIEV we've been in meetings throughout, I think, starting in July.
Yep.
Give or take. And through that, NIEV has agreed to provide a community benefits agreement without funding amount. Oh, defined. Oh, okay.
Yep.
I see.
So in the beginning, the funding amount was not defined. So we're just, this is who we are. This is the beginning part. So feedback from anybody is welcome.
when,
Or
Yeah.
questions.
yeah,
Yeah.
you might on second bullet, might want to say, initial concern was the path of the cable on land.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then in the fourth, bullet, maybe you just say agreed to provide community benefits agreement without funding initially defined.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. That's very helpful.
For those
There.
of you who are just joining us, are there any other questions that this might bring up if you're just listening to this slide for the first time? Pretty straightforward. Great. Okay.
I tried to catch up on the evolution of the project.
Yeah.
Because I know about it from communicate, just from conversations, indirect, third party.
Yeah.
So I don't know what some was agreed on, if any.
It's in here.
Okay.
It's coming up.
So I thought that this is probably gonna be more explanatory of where the group is at, the community, so.
Yep.
I was trying to catch up.
And as you go, if you have questions, feel free to just raise them. That's what we're here for.
Okay,
Yeah, because we've been involved for a while, so
Mhm,
it's a great
absolutely.
perspective to have some new folks looking at
Yes,
saying, we're
it is.
missing some information here.
All right. So this is the group and our purpose. I'm gonna slide that up just a skosh, make me happier. And then our process, and I think that starting in July would be helpful. Was it really July?
I think it was,
I think it was earlier.
It
It
was
was
June,
June,
yeah, 'cause
yeah.
I wasn't involved in the initial conversations. I think
Um,
July.
Yeah, I've been making them bold. Whoa,
Could you do a quick redundant, introduction and names of you?
Sure.
Old timers here in the meeting?
that is absolutely fine. Start with you, Allison.
Sure, and this is all recorded and will be shared with everyone here if you have contact information. Allison Soroy, East Boothbay resident.
Philip Conkling, New England Aquaventus Stakeholder Outreach.
Oh, I didn't. They are.
Allison Evans. Boothbay Harbor.
And Nell Tharp, East Boothbay.
And then we've got some folks on. Zoom.
Yes, and then let's see if I can get back there from here. I have the Zoom is backwards on here for me, so it's, where are you, Rob? Yeah,
Can you hear me?
we
Yeah.
can hear you. I'm just trying to make sure your picture shows up so everybody in the room can see you when you reintroduce yourself.
Brilliant.
There you go.
Yeah, yes. Good evening. My name is Rob Trotta, and I am the project director for New England Aquaventus.
Thank you, Rob. And I'm gonna squish him over here so we can hopefully keep him present and visible as we do this. How's that? Does that work for everybody? Almost. There we go. If there's a will, there's a way. Okay, so our purpose, and I took this from our early meeting minutes. So we had defined our purpose as trying to facilitate community participation in the project proposed benefits, excuse me. Yeah, go
Yeah,
Allison.
I'll just read it and then folks can facilitate community participation in identification and prioritization of benefits and benefit proposals. Public engagement as Boothbay and Boothbay Harbor, residents draft, community benefits agreements. I think we should need to add to that because we're not really,
It's the town's will.
right, right. So we need to provide communication for area residents about the proposed benefits, potential benefits, I'd say, or ideas of benefits, because that's kind of what we're doing. We're sort of the melting pot of putting ideas together. And then hold NIAB accountable for how the project proceeds in the area. The oversight of the project.
Well, I think it's just about providing feedback if there's an issue, so making sure the communication stays open. So I didn't know how to word it. I would rather put it in badly and then have everybody figure out how to say it better. That's my usual way of doing things. So no disrespect meant, Rob. Just want to be clear on that.
Yeah, I think really what it did is created a channel for communications between the project, you know, and the community as well. Additional, but I'm open for other words. Yeah. And I'm sorry, I'm having a little bit of trouble with my screen. I'm not seeing I'm trying to see the entire deck. I think it's on my side. So I'm not seeing all the activity on the deck. My apologies.
Okay, and if
I'm
you
trying
want,
to work it.
yep, I can always stop sharing and then start again, so.
I think it's something I did on my side.
Okay, communication, provide channel for between NIAB, the municipalities, and area residents. Come on. And property owners.
And I think we should say in the first bullet, I think we should say this, you know, I feel like we've been just putting together potential ideas for benefits because I think it's the greater community that's going to decide what those are. So I feel like we should be clear about the fact that we,
So
this group just sort of brainstormed to come up with some ideas. about how, what could be involved in the benefits agreement, but certainly not absolute, you know what I'm saying?
Yep. So, you want to just change identification to ideas?
Participate in, or participate in identifying and prioritizing benefit ideas, or something very simple like that.
Oh,
Is it prioritization or more so, or, did you really, at the end of the day, prioritize?
No, we didn't.
No,
No, I think. we
it's
did-
categorized. What you
I
did is you categorized.
Yeah,
I made a-
categorized. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and we categorized them by which ones were easy, which ones were hard, which ones were expensive. So you're right, categorization's a great idea. Uh, by identifying and categorizing. Good to have it. Okay. So anything else on this left-hand side of the slide?
Just in that last bullet, it needs to say, there needs to be an E for area instead of R.
Thank
In
you.
that Second to the last line.
Area. There we go.
Sorry, I'm a marketing person.
That's okay. No, I'm an editor, but I'm sick right now, so I don't claim any responsibility for anything that requires any executive function.
So one editorial comment under purpose, second bullet, if you
Yes.
start with engage public,
Okay,
then they're all active verbs. that
that's
start
fine.
the bullets.
While. How do you say that? As doesn't work there.
Especially while, engage public while.
Yeah,
Boothbay.
while I was trying to avoid words that were support or anything like that, because some people are going to be for, some people will be against. I
Keep it
don't-
neutral.
I
keep it
want to
neutral.
keep, yep, that's my goal is neutral. I am Switzerland. All right, so we can always come back if somebody, suddenly thinks of something later, but let's go to the process part of it.
Did we define CBA in the first slide?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Captures it.
okay, so, oh, I just did that again. What is with these pictures? I've never put a background picture on a slide before. That was my learning experience for this.
Yeah.
So this is, so do we want to change options to ideas?
Yeah.
So we're consistent? And we don't have to call it community discussions because some people of the community were not participating. So I hate to make it sound like the whole community came to this agreement.
Right.
So that was one of my thoughts earlier today.
So we could
So
just
do
say
we call it-
potential ideas.
Or do we want to say
Or- yeah,
community benefit package ideas?
Keep it simple.
I like simple. Agreement, that's right?
Yeah. And so are you just gonna talk about, for this slide, you might take a little bit of explaining.
Yeah, just to let people know, these were the things that the groups came up with. And that what we tried to do is have a description, really clarify what was the public safety or health benefit. Whether it was easy or hard to do, whether other entities had to be involved, so that they understand what the categories were.
Right. Do we need to state that Niev actually defined the community benefits agreement as being a public safety and or health related?
Next slide.
Oh, okay.
So if
Alright.
you want the slides in a different order, we can do that too.
Okay.
So you
I
want to
think
go
we
back?
should put that one first. I don't know.
Okay,
Describe, yeah. Colleen. I don't know. What do people think?
Yeah, I
Yeah, I think
agree
it
that
okay.
the matrix
There.
is.
Oops, I think
is
I moved it
detailed,
too
so
far.
Right.
You wanna stay
Oh, come on, go up one. There.
broader to.
That's who we are. This is about the agreement. Here's what we came up with. Hi, Pauline.
Hi, everyone. I finally found the link.
Yep, want to do a quick intro?
Pauline Dion, East Boothbay resident.
Thank you, darling.
You're welcome.
Okay, so let's go back to, I'm just gonna. Pauline, we've made a couple of edits to the proposed slides,
Okay,
none to that one.
okay,
This one had a couple of edits, saying that the concern was the path of the cable on land.
mm-hmm,
And that initially we didn't have the amount of funding defined.
okay,
And then this one just talked about the purpose. We did a couple of edits to just increase clarity.
Mhm.
And then this one is about the community benefit agreement.
Mm.
Yeah, and the agreements must be between NIAV and the municipalities.
So the first bullet, it should, the 4 be there. Community benefits agreement provides for funding by. Or don't, I don't know. Maybe it's okay.
uh, Provides funding by NIAV for one or more community projects.
That looks right.
Will provide, or, I don't know. That's fine. Must have health and safety focus. Benefit is contingent on the project moving forward.
So,
So it should say, yeah,
the-
the demonstration project, right?
is that what you want to call it, called, Rob?
Yeah, I think Rob needs to weigh in on these, because it's
Yep.
kind of representing him.
Yep.
We've been using a demonstration, we need to change it. I
Okay,
mean,
so
you've been
is that-
calling it NIAV, but NIAV is a demonstration product, been interchanged, but you can say demonstration product or continue, that works.
We could put NIAV in front of demonstration, so benefit is contingent on the NIAV demonstration.
Then it's
process.
more consistent, agreed.
okay, there you go.
Mhm.
And the agreements have to be between NIAV and the municipalities.
Should it be agreement singular, because we just said it would have to be a combined.
I would put the S in the parenthetical because we don't know exactly how they'll treat it yet, so,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay,
So we should be consistent. I think it was mentioned previously as a singular.
And I would imagine that it would be with municipalities, but I've seen it be done through setting up some other organizations or structures, so it would be, I would suggest must to be will,
okay,
because it's no real requirement for it to
Got it.
be.
but our anticipation is that it will be.
Exactly.
Got it. Yep, that makes perfect sense. Thank you, Rob.
Yeah.
Get out of there, you. All right,
And there is the final is the discussion was a 1 million cap for funding.
Not to exceed, yeah.
yep, and does that read okay, Rob? Can you see it?
Yeah, there's no wrong way to say it. I think we had stated in the release and in the postcard up to 1 million, but now in the 1 million cap is the same. To me, they're the same thing.
Yeah, yeah.
On bullet number 2, do you think, I know this might sound a little crazy, but should it read must have a community health and safety focus? Because health and safety focus for who?
I did not understand what you said,
If
Pauline.
you put it, I was just wondering if it should read bullet number 2, NIAV specified that the CBA must have a community health and safety focus. Because it says health and safety focus, but it doesn't say for who.
Yeah, I see.
Do you see what I'm saying? If someone would say, well, who does it benefit?
Well, yes, but it is a community benefit agreement, so it would, I just would assume that, but I'll put that in.
I was just thinking, just keep
Yep,
it
Yep,
consistent with.
clarity is what we're aiming for, so if there's any ambiguity then.
Mhm.
And do you want health and safety capitalized or not?
I don't think it has to be.
Okay. Okay,
To regress to previous discussions, is how was the 1 million cap established?
by NIAF,
And that,
that's the New England Aquaventus,
right,
but
That's a good question,
Rob,
Rob.
can you tell me
Yeah,
how, can you enlighten me on how the 1 million was assessed? Is it based on a percentage of project or how is the 1 million spent?
Yeah, so what we did is we assessed other projects that have been looked at and in other community benefits, and we looked at what the impact may be within the communities. And then that kind of resulted as to, we want to make sure also that it was sufficient to have a material impact, you know, within the community. And this kind of came up. I like to say it wasn't an Excel spreadsheet with a lot of different inputs. A lot of it was a bit subjective, you know.
so, Rob, is this separate from, because you have other agreements that you're doing is like, is this one section of the community benefit agreement, or is that, because I know that there's, you know, there's other parts to an agreement that you have with the project out on the islands. So I just, is that considered, I know it's separate, but Niev is
Yeah.
doing both, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, that's correct, Alice. Yeah.
and is there, so there's a community benefit for the island, is there a separate one for the fishermen adjacent to the demonstration project?
There's an encompassing agreement for the Monhegan fleet and for the island.
Okay.
And that was all done. I think we had briefly, I think that question came up a couple meetings ago, but for those that weren't there, you know, that was established and set up prior to 2019 when NIAB was created.
Okay, got it.
So the 1 million is only part of what they're offering in terms of community benefit.
So for this,
Well, the overall, yeah.
so for this portion, of the project, as far as the cap for funding on this, you said it was based on previous projects, previous wind projects in the Gulf?
No, there aren't any previous wind projects in the Gulf. So
First one.
our experience, you know, with other areas where landfall was part of a project, you know, and our experience, you know, as developers, you know, within other markets.
So it is potentially flexible.
It could, sure, it's up to $1 million, so it is flexible.
Okay.
Flexible up to $1 million.
Mhm.
So at the risk of creating hate and discontent, I'm gonna just say that one of the things that has not been discussed for this agreement by this group is having any portion available for the fishermen impacted as the cable comes onshore. And I know that has been a concern. I've heard that it's a concern. I don't have the wherewithal to talk about it intelligently, but I just wanted to raise it so that this group has an opportunity to think about how we might respond if a fisherman said, why aren't we part of this? So, Rob, feel free to share your thoughts.
When we initiated this process, our focus was to find a way to compensate for the inconvenience of the cable, the making landfall within the community, and that was the scopus and the scope and the focus of the discussion. So that is how and why the agreement ended up being for the onshore communities.
Right,
That's,
okay. So,
And that doesn't stop us from offering as an option on the different ideas we've already put forward.
exactly.
to have something that goes to, this money goes to the maritime industry with a health and safety focus, and that's not on the matrix, but I
Right.
think that is something I think we'd like to add.
I mean, as an idea, I
as
mean,
an
we're
idea,
really
and
just
then
putting
it can be
ideas out
defined
there.
fully by the community, you know, in this other process.
Yeah,
You know, this,
yeah.
once we hand it off. But as newcomers to this group, the ideas, if you have any, we're still taking them and we're still putting them on the matrix. So if you have any ideas that you think might, you know, be something that we haven't thought of, which is a good segue.
Yep.
It's still open to add.
Until there's a signed community benefits agreement, it's open.
Right.
So, and so one other important question for the presentation, is there a deadline for having the community benefit agreement kind of memorialized, finalized, signed, sealed, delivered? Do we have a date that we're aiming for, Rob?
So, no, we don't have a deadline, you know,
Okay.
but we're currently looking at, you know, probably late next year, I think, as
Yep.
updated previously, that we wouldn't be in a position to execute until, well, till financial investment decision, which is not targeted until very late next year. You know,
Okay.
so if that comes up, I would
2020.
imagine our bogey, our target, you know, should be to get this in place as well as soon as as soon as we can, right? You know, with the understanding that it hopefully would be before this, you know, this time, you know, next year.
So should we add that as the last bullet on the previous slide? Because that's specific to Niev and their sort of. You know,
Something about having an agreement in place,
yeah,
you know,
like
early.
a goal date, maybe, or something, goal date of, or, you know, of 2024, fall of 2024, or something like that, or.
So
Yeah.
I would, my personal thought is that if there's gonna be an agreement, that it should be in place in a timely way so that if there's anything that has to be voted on by the voters, it can occur at town meeting, which is usually, ours is May, is yours May?
Okay.
Okay, so
In May,
it is May.
yeah.
Yeah,
And I
that's,
I would think that would be pushing it, by the way.
yeah, I think
I
it may
I
be
don't
as
think
well.
we'll have it for this spec. I
Yeah.
think that's pushing it. If you started today, you won't have it.
Right.
Because then we have to put it in front of the voters. It'll take time.
Okay. So then the other option would be to do it as in November.
We can hold a special election anytime we want, or
Okay,
then we do it in the fall or something.
okay, thank you.
So that might be something that goes on that slide that kind of defines the community benefits agreement. I think that would be a good, like, add another
So
bullet.
another bullet, or have it with the contingent? Because the agreement is gonna follow. I mean, there's no agreement going to be finalized until NEAV decides they're gonna move forward. Like, that's
So
the
let's-
trigger for signing the agreement. Is that correct or not?
No, that's a really good question and worth clarification. We're going to execute this agreement as soon as we're completed with it. But that
Okay.
agreement will have a trigger that the community benefit payment, however the structure is determined, is not going to be made until the project goes into financial investment, right? Which isn't going to be until late next year. So let's get this in there, let's put it on the shelf, and in the moment we move forward, we'll go.
Okay,
And it might be good, agreements will be between NEAV and the municipalities. We might be able to expand on that just a little bit, you know, with a target completion date, you know, no later than, you know, November of 2023 or.
okay,
And
You know.
just for purposes of clarity, that, you all know your town governments, that Rob and I don't. But, some towns might, and some select boards might decide they have the authority to conclude an agreement.
Right.
And some might decide that they want a public vote.
It will depend on what is in the agreement.
Right.
So that's the deciding factor from my experience, that, yeah, that they may be able to just conclude it. But if there's something, so for example, sewer would require a vote.
Correct.
It would also require additional funding. So that's, so that's where the decision, as we get back to this matrix, when we started looking at what people put on their wish list, that some things are going to make sense and some things start making less sense.
There, how can I get
Yeah, could we,
visual as that?
could you guys read that so that we
Yes.
can
Sure.
understand what's on the list? That'd be great.
I don't want to speak for the select board, but I will tell you that in either Boothbay or Boothbay Harbor, you would have to bring this in front of the select board. They'll make a determination. Then at the very least, they have to have a public meeting on it. So when they have that public meeting, then people will discuss it. And after that, then they can make a determination whether they're gonna bring it to vote.
Right.
Or they're gonna make it, they're gonna call it themselves. I think in this case, based on what we're doing, I would probably guess that you're probably gonna have to go for a vote. And because it is, it's outside the norm. I'm guessing.
Well, and again, it would depend on what is selected. If it's road and traffic improvements that are in East Boothbay, then it's not going to be applicable to the voters of Boothbay Harbor. They're, they may or may not, but because it's, so that's where Rob had said there may be one or more agreements. So Boothbay Harbor may say, oh, we want to do this other project.
I
So,
think you have to have an agreement before you do any of that and talk about any type of project. You have to have an agreement that they're even gonna want to do.
yes, I
So you have to
understand
start
that.
with that first, and then once you get that go ahead, and then they can discuss what a project is. And if it's applicable, what they might want to say is, well, you're gonna do half for this community and half for that community or whatever, let them spend it as they will. And I think you're gonna find that Boothbay and Boothbay Harbor are two completely different places.
Well aware of that.
That's why we wanted to, get them, we wanted to start this.
Yeah.
Group, this
Good idea.
joint group for both towns
Yeah.
at this point, because we know that that part is very.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so just a
Still
little
way too
background on the
much.
matrix. We're calling it the matrix. On the top row, there are 6 different ideas that we came up with. The first is the sewer expansion to East Boothbay, which would be along the route from the substation to Bigelow. And that's because it runs along the cable route. The second one was road and traffic improvements in East Boothbay Village, again, because.
Along the cable
along-
route from the substation.
Yeah, and we go into detail, but I'm not gonna do that here. We'll send everyone a link who would like to have one to the full matrix, which has a lot of more stuff than what this has in it. The third is year-round public water to East Boothbay. Some folks have only seasonal water, a lot of folks,
And
and
some people are just on wells
And
and
just-
have had salt water in their wells because
Right.
of the drought this year. So that's what prompted that.
right. And then, the fourth one was school improvements, which, we had, did we have the superintendent?
Did you say school?
Yeah.
School improvements?
So the superintendent wasn't able to attend, but
Right.
sent ideas, one of which was to have some kind of a monitor of the demonstration project so students could be engaged in it. And the other was some infrastructure
Yeah.
for the
new
schools.
Buildings, right. And then, the fifth one was community health or safety services, and we hadn't really got into that one. That came up more recently, so we didn't have time to kind of get into the details and define that. But some of the things that came up was the community health center.
And the visiting nurse,
Yeah,
yeah,
yep. And then the sixth one was just a community fund that, folks could go to for health
Well-
and safety,
Right.
like the towns could apply and groups could apply to get money. That one was less, Niev was less enthusiastic about that because it's not a specific project. So for each of those categories, we then broke it down into certain, defining it a little bit better, across all of them to be able to categorize things. The first thing was just the description of generally what it was. And then the long-term public safety and health benefit for each of those for each of those headings. The ease of execution was also something we wanted to define, just in, a sewer extension versus just public water, two very different things, different expenses, quick versus not so quick. And then other entities required. So some of those categories would require like the water district and the sewer district versus just the water district. If you're comparing sewer versus year-round water. And then additional funding required. And that was either a yes or no question. If we could do it with the funds that they're offering based on the 1 mil cap. And like I said, the bigger matrix has all of this in a lot more detail that you can go to and look at.
Yeah, we'll get exchange,
Yeah.
and communicating to get that link.
Yes.
Yep.
And that's it. Those were the four, and then the maritime, potentially, we're gonna add this maritime industry benefit. And those are the ones we came up with.
I'm coming in late then, and I'm probably, I just wanna, Allison got all this, and I'll just collect her, but $1 million is nothing. And I gotta tell you, it's just nothing. And I just finished a house, it's 2 million. So I mean, and frankly, you can't. $1 million, what is it? You're gonna be able to you're trying to put a sidewalk in right here on the highway. I think our what was that? Cost was gone up to something like 800,000 just to do this little stretch of sidewalk. These are all great ideas, but I just don't see any money. $1 million is great. It sounds good, and the average person might be wooed and odd, but the reality is it's chump change.
And this is why we wanted to bring it up to the community. We only got as far as we could go, and we need more input from folks who have more expertise on costs, ideas of how this could even play out, what the community, if the community thinks this is important, then talking with Niev instead of a small group talking to Niev, but the town's talking to Niev about this. So we just we planted the seeds here. And we want to be able to hand this off to the town and the select board to say, we think this needs to be fleshed out more. We're a small group, but we think the towns need to get involved with select boards and like Rob said, there is flexibility with all of this still, so.
Just on, it could piggyback off the number 2 road and traffic or on the community health and safety services. But, the December 2012 pedestrian and bicycle plan that was surveyed of both adults and students from December of 2012 has much of this project laid out
Yes.
in entirety on a narrow survey number, but it's still 1 through 4. I think pedestrian right of way between East Boothbay and Boothbay was number 4 on the list, 1 being the roundabout scheduled to complete in 2015. Not quite there yet. The sidewalk you're talking about. But so we're just trying to catch up on the composition of this, what you're saying, there's a more detailed list.
Yeah, it's more of just us putting our ideas together, but we knew that had been done, and one of the things, this was just sort of, here's the idea. Now, the other part of the group was to come up with, how do we get some of these ideas out to the community? And so one of the other things we developed was a survey. So once the matrix or the ideas were put together, a survey could go out to the town residents.
There's some templates that would be beneficial that Bath had already put in place for parallels to all of this over a year ago. To help Bath Thrive, Drive 25 and community. It was an infrastructure proposal that they put out to the community in a questionnaire that was open for them for some period of time, be electronic data driven. They've got me scheduled for March to go and present to the town of Bath to their walk, ride, Bath committee, as well as the committee on sustainability and environment. Just because we had a demonstration on electric bike. There's a lot of interest individually in both communities on this. Huge. But to target that there'd be a survey, and I think you'll find out there's a lot more meat. Because if we don't have that, then the select boards are going to be arguing over the cut of the pie and not over what's going to be done. Because the $1 million is, you're not even going to get, and Harbor has to be involved because it goes all the way out. It's not going to get to the station without going through Harbor. So whatever, it affects East Boothbay more.
But that's why the original group was people from East Boothbay, and then we said, well, wait, this goes all the way to the substation, so it's Boothbay and Boothbay Harbor.
Right.
Which is why we've worked to have people from the harbor participate.
Yeah, and I think, we started just kind of throwing things at the wall saying, what are these ideas? And we really need to narrow it down to 1 or 2, really, or even 3 at most.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because it's just too many options. But we weren't okay with trying to eliminate stuff either.
Which is why we wanted a community survey to see where the interest lies.
Right.
And maybe one of those 3 or 2 of those 5 would include both communities, and the other 3 would be specific to the village. And that would simplify the process of the 2 select boards agreeing on the unfoldment of it.
Yeah, and I think that's why we're bringing this to the select board now. I think we want to just say, we need help with figuring out how to narrow this down, and what do the towns want? What do the communities want? What's the priority for the communities here based on these 6 options, which need to be like 2 options now, because some of them are unrealistic. At this point, the sewer extension.
Yeah.
Would be nice, but it's just so expensive. What is reasonable too,
That budget wouldn't even buy the pie.
right?
Right. Yeah.
So, and that's something that I think the town and the town select board would have the ability to talk with Rob and Nia about when we do, if we can narrow this down, then what are we talking,
And it would be nice to have the select boards talk about it together, so that there was a better chance of coming to some kind of I won't use the word agreement, but understanding. Go ahead.
I would just make a slight suggestion. Rather than trying to do this ahead of time, you should do an initial discussion with the select board and just put yourself on the agenda at each location.
We already are.
And so, and you gave them this list or initial list? Or
No, we're
discussed this
going to. We are on the agenda.
Oh, you're on the agenda. So, but you haven't gone in front of them yet.
Not yet.
Next week.
Well, I would keep it lightweight and just, I don't think, giving them choices is great, but you should hear what their choices might be. In
Yes.
advance, and then go back and schedule again to go see them, because they meet every month. And just go the following month or the month after, and then bring them what your list is, but listen to what they have to say first, rather than giving them choices.
So we're still in the process of looking at the slides, so speaking to what you were just saying, these were what I was thinking. Anybody's welcome to pitch in with any other suggestions for recommended next steps. One of the things that we really discussed is in putting out a survey as a community group, if the agreement needs to be from the municipalities, that we felt the survey really should be coming from the municipalities, not from just the community group. And if the municipalities want to have a joint ad hoc group that we then are authorized by the municipalities to do the surveys, that's a whole different ballgame. So again, this is the place where a lot comes back to the municipalities. If they said, we don't want to deal with it, that would be the end of the subject.
Be their option.
It is.
We've done it before with broadband committee. We've gone out and done surveys to the community and got a fairly decent response. So yeah, that would be an option for them. Maybe you give them that option when you speak to them.
Yeah, I mean, we've already crafted a survey, but we wanted to have that, not have it, anybody get blindsided, whether it's the municipality who's gonna potentially hear about it. So, and we also wanted to make sure this is another avenue for having the community understand what's going on, because people watch the select board meetings, they either attend in person or watch them on the cable channel. Yes, Rob.
Just one comment on this slide. Excuse me. Because I believe as you've all have described it in the previous meetings, was you were at the point of really being at a touch point, if you will. This was a time to go to the select boards and update on where you've been, what you've heard, and get some guidance, feedback, on where to go from here. So that's kind of what I've heard from the group for the past several meetings. My suggestion would be that should be one of these, when you recommended next steps, is to obtain that feedback, of where do you go from here from the select boards. To me, I think that's there's a lot of great discussion I'm hearing, but I think that was, you really say, hey, we've taken it this far, let's make sure we're all in lockstep with our boards, as we progress,
Yeah,
It's a suggestion.
yeah, no, it's a good suggestion. And I think you guys started out in the smaller group in June, trying to engage the town, right? And the reason we all came back together was to kind of produce something that we could then present as work done and then hand it off. So it's not that we want to, and Rob's right, the last 2 or 3 meetings were like, we need to cast a wider net here. We need to engage the town, because they're going to know what the community, they should be reflective of what the community wants, and that's the best place to get that information and feedback from the select board,
Okay.
right? And the elected officials, I would think. So that's where we're at, and I think that's good feedback to hear. Maybe the matrix, we need to present it as, here are the few that we have, and then here are empty spaces for where the select board would like to go with this, if they want to take this in.
Or where
and-
townspeople want
Yeah,
to take it
Exactly,
after a survey.
right. So we just created the structure, basically.
Exactly.
So I'm sorry I came on late, but I think they were gonna wanna hear who we, like who we are. I know you have that on the first slide. That's gonna be really a critical, to me, piece of information, because people are gonna say, where did this come from? And who are you? And why do you, why do you think?
It is on the first slide.
I saw that. Yeah, no, I saw that. I just think that speaks to this whole point, though, is where's this coming from?
So maybe we should define that a little bit better, you think? Like,
Mhm.
yeah.
I do.
Go ahead.
But
Sure.
Yeah,
can I
we
can I
can think about it.
I can think about it and get back to you, but I think that that's part of, everyone hears things and they just really wonder, are there hidden agendas here? I mean, who are these people? Why do they come together? Yeah, they concern citizens, but where are they coming from? Why are they concerned? Are they on the route? That kind of thing.
Yeah, and the one thing that I might just add for background is that the initial meetings were in the at the town hall.
At the
in
Boothbay, at the Boothbay Town Office,
And
yes.
At their town office, and Dan Breyer was, the channel of communication to the Boothbay Select Board. And he said, get back to us with some specific ideas.
Right.
We can't do this. I mean,
Right.
we
Right.
can't,
Right.
we could react, but,
We need something to start from.
we need something to start from. That's how this.
Yeah.
Really got going.
Right.
And how are Philip, why are you involved? Rob, why are you involved? That's you're part of the group.
And Julia Latter said the same thing, basically.
Yes.
Give us something to react to, just to get the discussion started, and not give us the final answer. Just help
Right.
us just get it, get a discussion going.
Right.
Because
We don't-
nobody else can do it.
What's that?
There's no one else.
Nobody else wanted to do it.
Yeah, that's basically it. So, yeah, for the people who are sitting here who haven't been part of it, Pauline and Evan and me were originally talking because of concerns about the route through the village in East Boothbay. And when the assessment was done for where the cable might go, when people didn't know why there were surveyors in their yards, and the surveyors didn't have any information to give. So that was what started the community discussions.
Mhm.
And then there was a meeting, when was the big meeting at the Y, Rob?
Oh, gosh. I went to that.
That was in the,
It was
Spring, people were walking around people's backyards. I was at the meeting.
yes,
When was that?
It was December
December.
2021.
December.
yeah, yeah. So
So everyone's learned a lot of lessons.
hopefully,
think-
yeah, I hope we
and
all
we've
have.
started to communicate and put this group
Right.
together so we could eventually hand it back to the town. And the other two things, there was a postcard that we also developed that had that was connected to a potential survey with options, ideas that would have gone out to the town, but we found we wanted to hand all of the whole package to
Yeah.
the committee, to the select board, to say, here's how we would structure this,
Right.
go forth and make any changes and
So,
see
yeah,
what you think.
one of the questions that came up with the postcard and the survey was, should they have the town logos? And that's what started the conversation about maybe it's time to go back to the towns.
Right.
I'm trying to think when I went to the town. I went to Boothbay because that's where I live. And presented to the select board right before you presented to the Boothbay Harbor, Rob. It was shortly before. And I gave them an update because the Boothbay selectmen had heard about the project earlier than Boothbay Harbor. So we were trying to make sure that Boothbay Harbor got brought up to speed in terms of the community benefit agreement piece of it, at least. So. Yeah,
I'm thinking too that we might want to open, I know it's an old saying that people use, but I'd like to open this discussion by saying, don't shoot the messenger, we're just
yeah,
be helpful. We're not coming into this to shove anything down anyone's throat. I mean, we're just trying to be helpful. And now we're reaching out to you.
Yeah. Well,
Mm.
and the response from the both select boards, I went to the Boothbay obviously one because I presented there, but the Boothbay Harbor one I watched on whatever their electronic measure was, and there was nothing contentious. It was just informational. So I know there's discussion out in the community that it's a little bit more contentious, and that's one of the things that we want to try and make it clear that this process is about a community benefit agreement and not about the project. We're not offering an opinion about the project. Everybody has their own opinion. It's just that NEAB has agreed to provide this funding, and how does the community use it to its greatest advantage for the community at large, including both municipalities.
Agreed.
And that's really the purpose of this group. So, and
Well
like all citizen-run groups, there's a long learning curve. And that's really why we'd hope to rely on the town leadership to see if they can help move it forward in a little bit more organized fashion. So, and we're at 6 o'clock. How about that? I'm always a stickler for ending on time.
So yeah, the board meeting next week is on the 9th, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
and Nell's offered to present,
On the 9th and then the 14th.
and then the 14th.
What is in the ninth again? Sorry, sort of out of sync here.
The 9th is Boothbay, the 14th is Boothbay Harbor.
So it's at 6 p.m.
One is 6, one is 7, and I can't remember which.
I bet it's 6 in Boothbay. Seems to be their time.
It may well be.
7 p.m. It's probably
Yep.
Boothbay Harbor.
Yep, it's 6 in Boothbay
7 in.
and 7 in Boothbay Harbor. You are correct.
Got it. And you're going to present now? Good. Yay.
Yeah,
I vote for you to present.
I'm in the fortunate position of being a neutral participant who doesn't have any employers or businesses that would be impacted by that process. So, there's no pushback, which is one of the things that makes it easier.
So I'm curious, did you guys read the article that was in the paper? And to find out about.
I actually have for a month, and I knew of the meeting that was held in the village. And the rocks, there was a lot of ideas, and it was about, it was the running through, and I found some others. So literally I have looked in kind of every area there is to find out when the next meeting was. And the only way that I found out I was notified is because it was posted. I Googled everything. I looked at a shorter call. I didn't.
Really?
There's,
Yeah.
Okay.
I couldn't find, there isn't anything on the NEAB site. There isn't anything in Wind in Maine. There's no information anywhere about where this meeting is
Got it.
or which day or where, I knew it was at the Y. It's not a Y schedule. So until it came out of the register, I had no idea this was.
Thank you for that
They put
feedback.
downstairs for 10 minutes. They had no idea it was here.
Yeah, no, the one.
No, the
Why
why
didn't know?
why didn't know it was here.
Oh,
No, the Y didn't.
Really, we've been working with Andy all along.
yeah. Well, but you get different people coming and going. They don't all know. So, yeah.
Oh,
And also the Zoom link, it's just, I don't know, maybe it's just me because I'm tech challenged, but that should be posted where it's really easily accessible, because I had to go look into old emails to get mine,
Okie doke.
just to let you know.
Yep.
It's probably it's my disability, not yours, but just make it easier.
I thought I had included everybody's email in the calendar invite. So again, it depends on whether you use your electronic calendar or not. So,
Thanks.
okay, I'm going to stop recording now.